Where will you be 5 years from now? Still waking up to the same routine? Still dealing with the same money stress? Still blaming luck, people, or circumstances? Or living a life where you decide, not your situation? Pause for a second and ask yourself, are you actually moving forward? Or just staying busy? Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Almost everyone works hard. Almost everyone wants success. Yet only 1% actually break free. Why? Is it luck? Is it talent? Is it background? Or is it something far more dangerous to accept mindset? This book, The 1% Mindset by Levy M. Pell Binner, doesn't promise quick money or overnight success. Instead, it exposes the silent mental patterns that keep 99% of people stuck even though they're trying. Let me ask you something real. Why do some people grow during hard times while others collapse? Why do some people turn problems into opportunities while others turn them into excuses? Why do most people wait for motivation? But the top 1% move even when they don't feel like it. And the most important question, what do the 1% think that the 99% don't? This book isn't about becoming rich. It's about becoming dangerously clear. Clear about your decisions. Clear about your time. Clear about responsibility. Clear about the uncomfortable choices that create freedom later. If you ever felt like you're capable of more but stuck, you're working hard but not getting ahead, or life is controlling you instead of the other way around, then this summary might change how you see everything, because the moment your thinking changes, your habits change. Your decisions change. And eventually your entire life changes. So stay with me till the end. Because by the time this video finishes, you'll clearly know whether you're living with the 99% mindset or stepping into the 1% mindset. Chapter 1. The question that separates the 1% from the 99. Where will you be 5 years from now? Same place, same problems, same complaints. Or living a completely different life, one where you make decisions instead of circumstances making them for you? This single question is where the idea of the 1% mindset begins. Almost everyone works hard. Almost everyone wants a better life. Yet only a small group actually breaks ahead, while the rest stay stuck in an endless loop of effort without real progress. This gap isn't created by luck, background, or talent. It's created by thinking. Most people believe successful individuals have something extra: more money, stronger connections, or rare talent. But the truth is uncomfortable. In most cases, they don't. The real difference lies in how they see the world and how they make decisions. The 1% mindset is not about being special. It's about thinking differently when everyone else thinks the same. Reaction versus designity. 9% of people live life in reaction mode. If things go well, they feel happy. If things go wrong, they complain. Job didn't work out. Blame luck. Money came in. Spend it. Money didn't come in. Panic. Life just happens to them. The 1% don't live like this. They design their lives. They think first, then act. They don't ask, what will people say? They ask, what will this decision look like 10 years from now? While others chase short-term comfort, the 1% choose long-term growth. While others want ease today, they accept struggle today so they can earn freedom tomorrow. This is not motivation. This is clarity. Income is a result of value. One of the most uncomfortable truths in this book is simple. Your income reflects the value you create. If your thinking is small, your life stays small. The 1% understand that money is not the goal, it's a byproduct. They don't obsess over salary. They obsess over becoming valuable. Skills, knowledge, impact, rarity. If you are easily replaceable, you will never be free. That's why average thinking leads to average income. When you do what everyone can do, you get what everyone gets. The 1% refuse to be replaceable. Motivation is overrated. Another major shift in this chapter is how the 1% view motivation. Most people wait to feel motivated. The 1% don't. They build systems. They rely on habits, not emotions. They make small, boring decisions every day that compound into massive results over time. This book doesn't sell dreams of overnight success. It teaches something more powerful: responsibility. Responsibility for your thinking. Responsibility for your time. Responsibility for your future. The moment you stop waiting to be saved, you step out of the 99. Emotion versus logic. The difference between the 99% and the 1% becomes crystal clear when it comes to money. Most people see money emotionally. Money comes, spend it. Money doesn't come, stress about it. Life turns into a cycle of earning, spending, and worrying. The 1% see money logically. For them, money is a tool not for showing off but for creating freedom, options, and security. They don't ask, what can I buy? They ask, how can I grow this? This is why the real gap between rich and poor thinking isn't salary, it's direction. The 99% chase higher income. The 1% chase higher value. Income always follows value. Busy doesn't mean productivity. And a third trap most people fall into is confusing busyness with progress. Working 8 hours doesn't mean meaningful work happen. The 1% measure effort by impact, not time. They focus on what truly matters and ignore everything else. They understand that being busy with the wrong things is just another form of failure. They don't try to do everything themselves. They delegate, automate, and build systems. There's no ego in control, only clarity that time is the most valuable resource. The foundation of change its score. The 1% mindset begins with one decision. No excuses. No blame, no waiting. As long as you blame parents, the system, luck, or circumstances, you stay powerless. The day you accept full responsibility for your life, even the parts you didn't choose, you regain control. This chapter lays the foundation for everything that follows. The 1% mindset isn't magic. It's not instant. It's not easy. It starts with a single shift, from reacting to life designing it. And this is where real change begins. Chapter 2, How the 1% Think About Money, Work, and Value. Money exposes mindset faster than anything else. You can listen to someone talk about success all day, but the moment money enters the conversation, their true thinking shows up. This chapter makes one thing brutally clear. The 1% don't chase money, they build value, and money follows. Most people believe the goal is a higher salary, a better job, more income. And while that sounds logical, it's exactly where the 99% get trapped. They focus on how much they earn, not why they earn it. Direction matters more than income. The book explains a powerful distinction. The difference between poor thinking and wealthy thinking is not the amount of money, it's the direction. The 99% ask, how can I make more money? The 1% ask, how can I become more valuable? When your value increases, income has no choice but to follow. A person who only works for salary stays limited by time. 8 hours of work means 8 hours of pay. Once the work stops, income stops. That's why so many people feel stuck even when they work hard. The 1% refuse to tie their life to time for money thinking. They focus on skills that compound, knowledge that scales, work that creates impact beyond the present moment. Don't be replaceable. Own idea repeated strongly in this chapter is uncomfortable but necessary. If you are easily replaceable, you will always be controlled. When you do what millions of others can do, you'll be paid like millions of others. Average skills lead to average outcomes. No negotiation. No freedom. The 1% constantly ask themselves, is my skill rare? Is my knowledge useful? Can my work be replaced tomorrow? If the answer is yes, they upgrade themselves. They learn when others relax. They sharpen skills when others complain. They invest in their ability to create value, not just earn wages. Work as an asset, not a task. Most people see work as something to finish. The 1% see work as something to build. Even in a job, they focus on learning systems, understanding markets, and developing leverage. In business, they build processes instead of depending only on effort. In freelancing, they build brands instead of chasing clients. Their goal is never just today's payment. Their goal is long-term value. This is why they grow even when circumstances stay the same. Busy is the new trap. This chapter also destroys another popular illusion. Being busy. Many people are exhausted but not progressing. They work all day, stay occupied, and still feel behind. That's because busyness without direction leads nowhere. The 1% choose focus over activity. They identify the few actions that create the biggest impact and ignore everything else. They understand that doing less but doing the right things beats doing everything poorly. They don't measure effort by hours. They measure effort by results, delegation, and systems. Another major shift happens here. Ego disappears. The 99% feel the need to do everything themselves. The 1% build systems. They delegate tasks. They automate processes. They design workflows that run even when they're not present. Not because they're lazy, but because they understand leverage. Time is limited. Systems are not. This mindset allows them to grow without burning out. Problems create money. One of the strongest ideas in this chapter is simple. Where problems exist, value exists. Where value exists, money follows. The 99% avoid problems. The 1% look for them. Instead of complaining, they ask, what's broken here? What's inefficient? What hurts people repeatedly? They know solving problems is the fastest way to become valuable. And valuable people are always paid. Calculated risk, not fear-based living. 1% don't avoid risk, but they don't jump blindly either. They analyze. They learn, they test. They understand that fear is part of growth, not a warning to stop. The 99% stay stuck because fear controls decisions. The 1% move forward because logic guides decisions. The real shift. This chapter reinforces a core truth. Money is not emotional. Money is not personal. Money responds to value, clarity, and direction. When you stop chasing money and start building value, life begins to shift. Opportunities appear. Choices expand. Control returns. The 1% don't work harder, they work smarter, deeper, and with intention. And that mindset changes everything. Chapter 3, Discipline. Failure and the mental strength of the 1%. This chapter exposes a truth most people don't want to hear. Success has very little to do with talent and everything to do with mental strength. The 1% don't win because life is easier for them. They win because they are mentally trained to handle difficulty without breaking. The biggest mindset gap between the 99% and the 1% shows up when failure appears for the 99%. Failure feels final. One loss becomes a label. One mistake becomes proof. They lose once and quietly decide, maybe I'm not capable. The 1% see failure differently. To them, failure is information. It doesn't say who they are, it shows what didn't work. They don't take it personally. They take it seriously. Every setback becomes data. Every mistake becomes feedback. This is why fear controls the 99% and fuels the 1%. If you fear failure, you'll avoid growth because growth always comes with mistakes. The book makes this clear. You can't want growth and avoid discomfort at the same time. Comfort and growth don't coexist. The 1% understands something most people ignore. Comfort feels good now, but it costs you later. The 99% constantly choose ease. Easy habits, easy routines, easy decisions, and slowly life becomes harder. The 1% choose struggle early intentionally. They do hard things when they don't feel like it. They make uncomfortable choices while others delay. They understand that temporary discomfort creates permanent strength. This chapter explains that if you always choose what feels good today, tomorrow will stop being a choice. Discipline over motivation. One of the strongest lessons here is about discipline. Most people wait for motivation. The 1% don't. They know motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline stays. Discipline isn't about being strict or harsh. It's about keeping promises you make to yourself. Every time you break a promise to yourself, self-respect weakens. Every time you keep one, confidence grows silently. That's why the 1% don't rely on mood. They rely on systems, habits, daily structure. They show up even on low-energy days. Especially on low-energy days, responsibility creates power. Another uncomfortable truth this chapter delivers is about responsibility. The 99% blame. The system parentalistemy feels good, but it makes you powerless. The 1% take responsibility even for things they didn't create. Not because it's fair, but because it gives them control. The moment you accept full responsibility for your life, excuses disappear and so does helplessness. This is where real power begins. Energy is the real currency. The book highlights something rarely discussed. Energy management. The 99% waste energy on emotions. Anger, worry, complacent. 1% protect their energy like an asset. They don't react to everything. They pause. They think. They respond intentionally. They know emotional reactions drain energy that could be used for progress. They don't argue unnecessarily. They don't seek validation. They don't chase approval. Clarity matters more than attention. Focus in a distracted world. This chapter also calls distraction the modern disease. People say they don't have time but spend hours scrolling, consuming random content and reacting to noise. Their attention is scattered, so their results are scattered. The 1% do the opposite. They guard their focus. They limit access. They say no without guilt. They understand that attention determines direction. Whatever you focus on daily slowly shapes who you become. That's why they start their days intentionally. They don't hand their mind to the world first thing in the morning. They decide what deserves their attention. Boundaries create strength, unlike the 99%. The 1% don't try to please everyone. They know saying yes to everything means saying no to themselves. They set boundaries. They choose solitude over wrong company. They accept being misunderstood. They understand that loneliness is temporary, but wrong influence leaves long-term damage. The Inner Shift. This chapter reinforces a powerful idea. The real battle isn't outside, it's inside. Laziness, fear, doubt, confusion. These are the walls that stop progress. The 1% don't wait for these feelings to disappear. They act despite them. They train the mind like a muscle, daily, repeatedly, intentionally. That's why when pressure comes, they don't collapse, they rise, because mental strength isn't built in comfort. It's built through discipline, responsibility, and controlled discomfort. And that's what separates the one, not once, but every single day. Chapter 4, Habits, Identity, and the Power of Daily Coassess. This chapter delivers one of the most important truths of the entire book. Big success is never the result of one big decision. It's built through small choices made daily. The 99% wait for life to force change. The 1% change before life forces them to. And the tool they use is simple but powerful: habits. Identity comes before result. Most people try to change outcomes first. They say, once I succeed, I'll be disciplined. Once I earn more, I'll think bigger. Once life improves, I'll take control. The 1% reverse this order. They understand that identity creates habits, habits create actions, and actions create results. They don't wait to feel confident, they act like disciplined people now. They don't wait to feel successful, they live with intention now. This chapter makes it clear: if you want a different life, you must first become a different person. Small habits. Massive impact. The 99% underestimate small habits because they don't produce instant results. Waking up early once doesn't change anything. Reading 10 pages today feels useless. Making one better decision seems insignificant. So they quit. The 1% understand compounding. They know small habits don't change life in 1 week, but they completely change life in 5 years. Every tiny action is a vote for the person they're becoming. This is why the 1% take daily habits seriously. They don't negotiate with discipline. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They show up even when it feels boring. Why most people only change in pain. Book points out a sad pattern. Most people change only when life becomes unbearable, when money is gone, when health collapses, when relationships break. That's when the 99% finally wake up. The 1% don't wait for pain. They change when life is still normal. They prepare when things are stable. They improve when they don't have to, so they don't suffer when things turn hard. This proactive mindset is what keeps them ahead. Morning sets the direction of the strongest lessons in this chapter is about mornings. The way you start your day silently decides the direction of your life. The 99% wake up and immediately consume noise, messages, notifications, random content. They hand control of their mind to the world before they even stand up. The 1% protect their mornings. They start intentionally. They stay calm. They decide priorities before reacting. They understand that a distracted morning creates a distracted life. Focus is a superpower in today's world. Attention is constantly under attack. People jump from task to task, thought to thought, screen to screen, then wonder why nothing meaningful gets done. The 1% do the opposite. They do one thing at a time. They finish what they start. They remove distractions without guilt. This chapter makes it clear: a scattered mind can never build a powerful life. Emotional control builds inner strength. And the major difference highlighted here is emotional discipline. That 99% react emotionally. Small problems steal their energy. Anger, fear, and anxiety drain their focus. The 1% pause before reacting. They don't suppress emotions, but they don't let emotions control decisions. They save their energy for what actually matters. They understand something crucial: energy is limited. Waste it emotionally, and nothing meaningful remains. Environment shapes identity. This chapter strongly emphasizes environment. Your habits are shaped by the people you spend time with, content you consume, the conversations you tolerate. The 99% stay in environments that normalize complaining, excuses, and mediocrity. The 1% choose growth even if it means standing Alone, they prefer temporary. Loneliness over permanent limitation. Consistency beats intensity. Book reminds us that intensity looks impressive, but consistency wins. The 99% start fast and quit early. The 1% start small and stay long. They don't chase dramatic change. They chase repeatable discipline. They know life doesn't reward hype, it rewards commitment. The daily question. This chapter ends with a quiet but powerful idea. Every day, consciously or unconsciously, you answer one question: am I living like the person I want to become or the person I've been? The 1% choose intentionally. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when no one is watching. Because they know daily choices don't just shape habits, they shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. Chapter 5. Time. Focus and playing the long game. This chapter reveals a hard truth most people ignore. Everyone has the same 24 hours, but not everyone uses them the same way. The difference between the 99% and the 1% isn't talent, luck, or background. It's how they respect time. Time is not spent, it's invested. The 99% talk about killing time. They scroll, react, distract themselves, and then complain that life is moving too fast. The 1% never kill time. They invest it. They understand that time is the only resource that never returns. Money can be earned again. Energy can be restored. Time only moves forward. That's why the 1% treat time with seriousness. Not stress. They don't rush, but they don't waste. Urgent versus important. One of the strongest lessons in this chapter is the difference between urgent and important. Urgent things scream for attention. Important things quietly shape the future. The 99% live in urgency. Messages, notification, people's problems, random tasks. They stay busy all day but move nowhere. The 1% organize life around what's important. Skill building, health, and long-term projects, deep thinking. They understand that what matters most rarely feels urgent today but becomes unavoidable tomorrow if ignored. Focus creates momentum. The book makes it clear. Focus is not about doing more. It's about doing less better. The modern world rewards distraction, but progress demands depth. The 99% multitask. The 1% single task. They work in blocks. They eliminate interruptions. They give full attention to one thing at a time. This ability to focus compounds over time, while others scatter effort across dozens of directions. The 1% move steadily in one direction and win quietly. Saying no is a skill. Another powerful idea in this chapter is the importance of saying no. The 99% say yes to everything, every request, every invite, every distraction. They confuse availability with value. The 1% understand that every yes costs something. They say no without guilt. They protect their schedule. They choose priorities over popularity. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Energy over hustle. Book also challenges hustle culture. Working longer doesn't mean working smarter. The 99% burn themselves out trying to stay busy. The 1% manage energy, not just hours. They sleep properly. They take care of their body. They understand that a weak body creates a weak mind. Mental clarity requires physical discipline. Delayed gratification. This chapter strongly emphasizes delayed gratification. The 99% want quick results, fast money, instant validation, immediate comfort. When results don't show up quickly, they quit. The 1% think long-term. They're willing to look foolish today to become powerful tomorrow. They accept slow progress because they understand compounding. They trust the process even when nothing seems to be happening, because real growth is often invisible at first. Consistency beats speed. Speed looks impressive, but consistency wins. The 99% start fast, burn out, and restart again. The 1% move steadily and never stop. They don't chase intensity. They chase sustainability. This chapter explains that success is less about how fast you start and more about how long you can stay committed. The long game mindset. 1% play the long game. They don't panic over short-term losses. They don't celebrate short-term wins too loudly. They stay balanced. They understand that life is not a sprint, it's a long journey. And those who survive the journey with discipline eventually lead it. A quiet advantage. Each chapter ends with a powerful reminder. While most people waste years reacting, scrolling, and waiting, the 1% are quietly building. They don't announce progress. They don't chase attention. They don't rush. They let time work for them, not against them. and by the time others notice, the gap is already too wide to close. Chapter 6. Responsibility, Self-Control, and Becoming Unshakable. This chapter goes straight to the core of the 1% mindset. Not motivation, not intelligence, not luck, responsibility until a person accepts full responsibility for their life. Real growth never begins. Blame is comfort. Responsibility is power. 99% live in blame. They blame parents for their upbringing. They blame the system for their limitations. They blame luck for missed opportunities. Blame feels good because it removes pressure, but it also removes power. The 1% think differently. They accept responsibility even for situations they didn't create. Not because it's fair, but because responsibility gives them control. The moment you say, "This is on me," your mind starts looking for solutions instead of excuses. This chapter makes it clear. You can't change what you refuse to take responsibility for. Victim thinking versus owner thinking. The book draws a sharp line between two identities. Victim thinking says, "This shouldn't have happened to me. It's not my fault. I had no choice." Owner thinking says, "What can I do from here? How do I adapt? What's the next move?" The 1% choose ownership every time. They don't waste energy replaying the past. They use that energy to build the future. Self-control is real freedom. One of the most powerful lessons in this chapter is about self-control. Most people believe freedom means doing whatever they want. The 1% know true freedom means not being controlled by impulses. The 99% live by desire, eat what feels good, cooks what's easy, deli what's hard. The 1% live by discipline. They understand that what feels good now often costs later, and what feels hard now creates freedom later. Self-control is not restriction. It's respect for your future self. Emotions don't lead decisions. This chapter emphasizes emotional mastery. The 99% react emotionally. Small problems steal their peace. Temporary feelings dictate permanent decisions. The 1% pause. They don't deny emotions, but they don't obey them blindly. They feel emotions, understand them, and then choose actions logically. They know that emotional decisions usually create long-term regret. Calm thinking is their advantage. Clarity creates confidence. Sacrifice, according to this chapter, doesn't come from hype or positivity. It comes from clarity. When you know what you want, what you won't accept, what direction you're moving in, doubt loses power. The 1% don't chase confidence, they build it by staying aligned with their values and decisions. Boundaries protect power. Of 1% don't try to make everyone happy. They know that pleasing everyone means losing yourself. This chapter explains why boundaries are essential. Protect time, protect energy, protect focus. The 1% and no without apology. They understand that every unnecessary yes weakens their priorities. This isn't selfishness, it's self-leadership. Quiet strength over loud validation. Unlike the 99%, the 1% don't seek constant approval. They don't need likes, praise, or validation to stay committed. They trust their direction even when no one understands it yet. They know early progress often looks like confusion from the outside. They stay steady, stability in chaos. This chapter highlights an important trait of the 1%. Emotional stability. When things go well, they don't get carried away. When things go wrong, they don't fall apart, they stay balanced. They understand both success and failure are temporary, and overreacting to either destroys clarity. The Inner Shift chapter closes with a powerful realization. The moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as the owner of your life, you become unshakable. And no more excuses. No more waiting. No more blaming, just clarity, discipline, responsibility, and that's where real strength is born.